on Australia's business channel. This is Media Week.
Hello and welcome to Media Week. Ahead, triple play. Confirmation News Corp is in talks with Telstra for bundling broadband, phones and Foxtel. Nine completes the Win Perth acquisition, but Win denies the rest of the business is up for sale. And the Australian Women's Weekly 80th birthday celebrations. But first, radio broadcasters are all claiming victories this week on different metrics after the latest Nielsen ratings. DMG Radio says its Nova network is the #1 in the country on all people, but rival Southern Cross Austereo is still #1 in FM in Sydney, the biggest market in the country, and the lucrative breakfast spot with Carl and Jackie O has won 50 consecutive surveys. Our co-host James Manning, editor and publisher of Media Week, is here to talk us through the results. And also for more reaction, we're joined by Craig Bruce, the head of content at Southern Cross Austereo. So welcome to you, Craig, and also to James as well.
How are you?
Survey 6, let's talk about that because everyone's a winner in radio.
That's great. It's perfect.
Exactly. Yeah, DMG's been making quite a lot of noise, I noticed.
Sure.
Was it a tough survey for you guys?
It was. There were lots of really good pockets of success around the country for us. Triple M continues to be the #1 male network for us around the country. Obviously, a great result for Today FM in Sydney. Some good success in Perth with Mix. A good solid result, not at #1, but certainly in the pack. But no question, DMG have had an excellent round, the smooth numbers were just extraordinary in Sydney, certainly, and some good results for Nova in some markets too.
Talk to us a little bit about the importance of Kyle and Jackie O to the Today network, of course, holding on to that very important Sydney breakfast market. A few challenges there. We're reading about contract negotiations coming up. I don't know if you're into that.
I believe it's called,
And then a guy you've worked with a lot, Derek Bargwan, has sort of gone, worked with them, was content director at the station. So a few little challenges there as well.
Yeah, there is. I mean, Kyle and Jack are really professional, and you don't win 50 surveys in a row without knowing what you're doing. And certainly there's some critical elements to the success of the show, Derek being one of them. Donna Punchmaran from SAFM and previously B105 is the new content director, and she shares a lot of the attributes that DB had, and her focus and her breakfast expertise is of the highest quality. So look, we're really comfortable with where Kyle and Jack are sitting at the moment, and I'm sure we'll come up with a new arrangement for them for the next couple of years. And look, they are as focused as they've always been. They're still hungry to win, and we think we've got a good level of success into the future for Kyle and Jack.
We should have a look at some of the results in each of the markets, and I know James can probably talk us through those as well.
Look at each. We'll start with Sydney. Of course, you and 2GB still #1 AM and FM there. Probably the big change there was not a great survey for WSFM, which had been hanging around #2. But Nova, a bit of life there in their Fitzy and Whipper breakfast show. Keep your eye on things like that.
Yeah, and I think they've found a range above the 6 share that they'd been sitting in for a period of time. They're into the 7s now, which was sort of where Merrick and Rosso sat for a period of time back in the early 2000s. So we'll see where that develops. Certainly the smooth result was terrific for them as well, and a really good, strong result for the grill team in Sydney, where it's held up in the early 6s, and we're really happy with the consistency of those numbers.
Sure, we'll go down to Melbourne. A bit of a change there, wasn't there? Fox and Gold now sharing top spot. I sort of thought this week Gold really came from nowhere, but they have been hovering around. They're just a bit off the media radar, aren't they?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because WS have had a weaker result in Sydney, yet Gold with essentially the same format have had a strong result in Melbourne. The Fox result holds up from a share perspective. We've got a bit of work to do with Matt and Joe. A really strong result for Husey and Kate. They're kind of on their farewell tour at the moment. They finish up at the end of the year, but they had a strong result. And Eddie's, in a really good space right now with Eddie, Luke and Mick sitting somewhere in the early 8s, I think, at the moment with the hot breakfast on Triple M.
Sure. Up in Brisbane, you've been under a bit of pressure in Brisbane, but a little bit of growth at both your stations there, but still the leader there, 97 All People and Nova in breakfast.
Yeah, Nova and 97.3 have been successful now for quite a period of time in Brisbane, but some really good, strong results for SCA. Certainly the grill team. I think there's about a point separating first and fourth.
They had a good one, the grill team.
So we're certainly in the mix. It's a really tight market, probably the most competitive of all the markets at the moment, I would think.
Yeah, okay. Over in Adelaide, your hometown, Craig. Again, your station's been under a bit of pressure there. Mix came back a little bit closer to the pack, but they're still in a good place. 5AA #1 at breakfast again, after sort of off the pace for a little while. What's happening in
Adelaide is Mix is holding up very strongly in Adelaide. We've got some good numbers on 5MMM. It's been the #1 male station in Adelaide for quite a long period of time. You've got to pull apart those numbers to see the dominance that we have from a male perspective.
We're really pull them apart.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, that's where every player wins a prize book, you see. And we're really confident about the breakfast show at SAFM. It's early days, but Michael Beveridge, watch this space. Trust me.
Really?
He's going to be a star.
He's the guy off Big Brother from last
one
year.
of the best.
The guy with long hair was on Big Brother.
Guy from Big Brother.
The red-headed. See, red-headed. You can remember the red-headed ones.
Okay, over in Perth, the last metro market we'll look at. 96 FM had a really good survey. They've been on, well, you're just slightly building breakfast still needs a bit of work there, but Nova's very good in breakfast, and your Today Network station there under the pump a bit, isn't it?
Well and truly, the 92.9 result was disappointing. Mix in pretty good shape. We've got our new breakfast show starting into Survey 8.
That's right, Fred Boddicker moving from breakfast to drive, which will be a big change for the market.
Drive show has been around now for 4 or 5 years, sort of preparing for this transition period that we knew that we'd have to do at some point with Fred. So we're really excited about the Mix changes, and hopefully we can have a great 2014.
I guess my question, Craig, is when these surveys come out, we love to jump on them and obsess over them and pick them apart as the media and go survey by survey almost. What do the advertisers do in your experience? Are they looking at it with that short time frame, or are they taking a longer term view? And how are you kind of digesting these surveys?
I'd prefer them to take a longer term view. I think it's always better to look at trends. Surveys jump around from book to book, and yes, that's certainly how we look at the numbers. We look at the longer tail.
So you say you prefer them to, but do they tend not to?
Well, it's hard sometimes, isn't it, when you get a big result?
Yeah. I mean, it depends a bit on what the result is as well. If it's down, you'll say, well, let's wait for next survey. If it's a great result, it's where every player wins a prize. You see, that's
radio's a fun game, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of media obviously also come to grips with just how you make money from digital content as well, and which has been a bit of a theme on this program. How are you kind of going with those discussions where you are?
Yeah, well, Clive Dickens is the new head of digital and innovation for SCA, and he's such an impressive guy, and he's done a terrific job in the short time that he's been with us. And our engagement levels at SCA are best in class from a media perspective. So we think we've got a pretty good feel for how content works from a broadcast perspective, and then how that can work from an online digital point of view. And then I guess the question for everyone to work through is how we monetize it.
And that's still an ongoing meaty discussion in the office.
Literally.
Now, we mentioned briefly Husey and Kate before, #1 FM in breakfast at the moment in Melbourne. They're going to be leaving the airwaves. New breakfast show to be announced soon. Does that make all broadcasters rethink what they're doing down there, or do they think, okay, we've got to keep doing what we're doing because we could really pick up?
Well, I reckon what you've got is certainly the end of a cycle in Melbourne with Nova Melbourne. Husey and Kate have been there for 10 years, essentially virtually
12,
since the launch.
12 years.
And Matt and Joe have been together for a long period of time as well. Traditionally, new breakfast shows mean you go backwards before you go forwards, but Nova have had a history of doing a really good job of launching quickly. So I guess we'll have to wait and see, one, who they come up with from a casting perspective, and how quickly they can.
Would that influence what you might do, who they'd pick, or not really?
Not really. No, I think we're pretty comfortable with.
You've got a plan mapped out. You think what your guys are going to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Craig Bruce, thank you very much.
Hey,
great of you to join us. Head of content at Southern Cross Austereo, and of course James Manning sticking around for the show. Coming up on Media Week, are News Corp and Telstra working on a triple play offering, which includes Foxtel, that might actually boost subscriptions. We'll talk about that next.